At Denver United Methodist Church, we have been talking about a mission center for a long time. Well, now it's time to continue that story and tell you exactly what the next steps are. I'm standing here beside the Rodin Scout Center, and next to it is the space where what we are calling a mission depot will be built. I need to tell you how we got here. I'm sure you've heard the term, we make plans and God laughs. Well, that's kind of what happened. We had everything ready to go. We had rebooted the capital campaign. We were set on building the mission center when our backdoor neighbor on Cedar Street came and offered us their property at a great price. We felt like, wow, we need to buy that. We need to reconfigure that to meet the needs of the missions immediately. So we stepped forward with that and the Lineburger Property. But then that all fell apart a few weeks later after we'd agreed to buy it, when our neighbor decided to go in a different direction and that property was no longer available. So again, we found ourselves having to change. So we paid $200,000 for the Lineburger Property. We still had our mission needs, and we're trying to figure out, what can we do? What should we do? This is where our initial plans had the mission center being located. And so I know it can be confusing as to all these changes. That's the purpose of this video, is to help explain why we aren't building a mission center here, but we are building a mission center down there. The original goals of our Right Now campaign were to raise $1.8 million. That money was earmarked for interior renovations here in the Narthex, in the Sanctuary, in the Family Life Center to provide noise abatement. There's also money to build the mission center and money to pay off our existing debt. And we were well on our way in early 2020 of meeting all those goals. And if you recall, we had already had roundtable discussions. We'd had a lot of communication. We had a clear and direct plan. And our commitment Sunday was set for March 27th. Well, 2 weeks before that, something happened, and you know what happened. This happened. This happened. COVID-19 changed our world, certainly changed our church, changed our plans. So we regrouped in the fall of 2020. We came back with a scaled down understanding of what we wanted to accomplish given the realities of COVID-19. We set the parameters for what we wanted to do as build the mission center and pay off debt. All of this stuff, it can wait. We understand that. But we wanted to build the mission center and pay off our debt. That was our goal with the Even Now campaign, which was the reboot of the Right Now campaign. I know this all can sound a bit confusing, and all of these twists and turns can be hard to follow. But it's important that we understand the entire story of how we arrived where we have arrived. I'm standing on what we are now calling the Lineburger Property. This was a part of the change in plans that happened late last year when the family, the Lineburger family that owned this property for a long time, gave us the opportunity to purchase this. This is a piece of property the church had been hoping to acquire for a number of years. And so when this opportunity presented itself to us, we thought we absolutely have to take advantage of this. We had a church conference in the fall to make this official. So this has been purchased, this has been paid for. This will give us the opportunity to have a stronger missional footprint in our community. For now, this property will remain as it is as we build the Mission Depot. And after that gets taken care of, then we'll turn our attention to what happens here next. As you can see, it is a great location for us. It provides great visibility for our ministries and for our church. It corners in at two different sides of our existing property. So we feel like this is God's blessing to provide this gift back to us so that we can better serve this community. This is an interesting spot to me in this church because I am standing on the literal threshold between two buildings. In 1999, the church began using this sanctuary. Of course, money was borrowed to build this building, and it has served the church well since that time. In 2007, the church had grown to the point that the Family Life Center was built, which I'm now in. These two buildings are next to each other, as you can tell. And money that was borrowed for the sanctuary, that debt was not paid off by the time this building was built. And so the debt from the sanctuary was rolled into the new debt for the Family Life Center. What that means is that we've been paying debt since 1999. We've been paying interest to the bank since 1999. We currently have had $15,221 a month in our budget to pay off this debt. And so we are at a point where we have the money to pay off the debt, and that is amazing. We're going to be debt-free for the first time in over 20 years. And I hope you can celebrate that with me. I want to say thank you to the people who were here when that debt was first taken out, who took that step of faith, that commitment to build for God's kingdom. And now I want to say thank you for those who helped give to this church in such a way that we can retire that debt once and for all. Thank you. So what are we doing now? After all these twists and turns, after battling through COVID-19, after having to adjust our plans, after having properties offered to us, after having properties taken off the table, where do we stand? Well, here's where we are. We are first and foremost going to pay off the debt. That's taken care of immediately. The Finance Committee has already recommended that. The Administrative Board has already approved that. We are taking money that we have held in the United Methodist Foundation for the last 4 or so years to do that. We owe $360,000 on our debt. We have $400,000 plus in the foundation. We're going to erase that debt. That's done. That's great news. Then we are going to break ground and build what we are calling the Mission Depot that will again house backpack ministries. It will house Furnish a Future. It will house build-in repair teams. And that's going to meet those most pressing needs immediately. That's going to be built. The expected cost of that is around $440,000. Now that may sound like a lot of money, but prices have gone through the roof with COVID-19. It's just where we are. But we're going to have this building broken ground upon. We're going to have it completed, and it's going to be paid for in full because of the commitments and the money we've already received through the Even Now campaign. Thank you for your generosity that's allowed us to do that. And we have also already paid for the Lineburger property. So at the end of this long saga, at the end of all these ups and downs, these twists and turns, here's what we know. We're going to pay off the debt. We are going to build the needed mission space that we need that meets our most pressing mission needs. And we have acquired a wonderful piece of property that the church has needed for a long, long time for future mission and outreach purposes. So we're in a great place. I know it's been a lot of twists and turns, a lot of up and downs, but we have a lot to celebrate as we get to this point in the life of this church. So here we are at the end of the story, which is actually just the end of a chapter. But here's the end of that chapter in the story of this church. We are going to gather and celebrate the fact that we are going to pay off the debt that this church has carried for over 20 years. We're going to celebrate the fact that we're going to be able to break ground on a mission depot to meet those critical missional needs. We're going to celebrate the fact that we've already purchased and paid for the Lineburger property that will set us up so well for future ministry efforts. We're going to celebrate that God's doing all of this and that we're going to be debt-free, we're going to have mission space, and we're going to have even broader opportunities for the future. So please join me and everyone else here May 30th, 10:15 a.m. as we gather at the Arbor to celebrate what God is doing. David Christie, our district superintendent, will be here to help preach that service and share with us some of his perspective on what this church is doing. And we are going to do a couple of things. We're going to burn that note. We're going to break ground on this new mission space. And we're just going to celebrate that we have seen God act in such a way that we can live into what Paul says in Romans 8:28, where he says to the church, We know all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to His purposes. Yes, we've had a lot of twists and turns on this journey. We've had a lot of ups and downs. But what we can see at the end of this journey is that God has shaped us in such a way that we are getting to the right place to serve God the best way possible in the Denver community. So I hope you will come out and celebrate that fact as we gather for worship on May 30th. Thank you, and God bless you.